Yo, what's good people? So I'm going to be ranking all 18 champions currently in the Titan Crystal. But let me make this very clear right now. I'm going to be ranking these champions based off how good they are in competitive battlegrounds. So for example, if I was ranking these champions in general for questing, alliance war, etc., there's a good chance Count Nefaria would probably be number one. But since I'm ranking these champions for competitive battlegrounds, spoiler, he isn't. If you want access to the best competitive Battlegrounds advice, the latest Battlegrounds news, the latest Battlegrounds tips and tricks, or if you just want to improve your Battlegrounds game, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I am completely dedicated to helping all of my viewers improve their Battlegrounds game. I never clickbait, and I'm always 100 with my viewers on what I think about champions. I will tell you if a champion sucks. I've been playing competitive Battlegrounds for a very long time. Since it was in its beta, I've had multiple top 10 placements, and anyone who has followed my content can vouch that their Battlegrounds game has improved. So help support the channel. Let's get to 10,000 subscribers as soon as possible. That's the next milestone. Now let's jump into the video. Coming in dead last, the champion that I think is the worst for Battlegrounds out of the Titan Crystal is Northstar. Now I'll try and keep all of these descriptions as brief as possible whilst being as descriptive as possible. Now the problem with Northstar is he's a ramp up champion, right? So of course he's bad for Battlegrounds. On attack he just takes way too long to ramp up. He's really slow on attacking Battlegrounds, doesn't really counter any meta defenders, and he's trash on defense. Specials are easy to get out of the way of, and he has a small health pool. Coming in at the 17th spot is Red Hulk. In the bottom left corner, I will place meta defenders which these attackers are good for. So for example, Red Hulk, he's good for Mephisto and Longshot. I didn't do this for Northstar because Northstar isn't really good for anyone. He's that bad for Battlegrounds. But at least Red Hulk, you know, he can take two somewhat troublesome defenders. But in general, Red Hulk has underwhelming damage, little utility. His only utility is his poison immunity and his incinerate, purification / resistance if he's duped. But yeah, underwhelming damage, not that versatile. Of course there's other Mystic champions Red Hulk can take like Sasquatch and Absman, but he's slow in those matchups, so they're not really good matchups. He's just not a good Battlegrounds champion. At 16th, and the last of the quote unquote bad champions, is Patriot. The reason Patriot is higher than Red Hulk is because at least Patriot is a hard counter to one of the trickiest defenders in the game, which is Photon. But other than that, you don't really want to use Patriot for any other matchup. He's got underwhelming damage. He's got a decent-ish amount of utility, but none of that matters because his damage is so underwhelming. He kind of reminds me of a skill version of Captain Sam. And yeah, of course he's bad on defense as well. So just a bad champion for Battlegrounds all round really. Coming in at number 15 is Beta Ray Bill. Now he's a ramp up champion, so you wouldn't expect him to be that good for Battlegrounds. He can do decent though. He's decently fast against tech champions, but outside of that, you know, he's pretty slow. And there are just so many faster, more versatile champions than Bill. And you know, he really wasn't designed for Battlegrounds, so it makes sense. But on top of that, there's so many champions with shock immunity, shock resistance, energy resistance, you know. This really hurts Bill more than it hurts other champions that rely on shock like Guardian and Red Skull, because they have the utility to take defenders like Domino and Bullseye. Bill doesn't have that. Bill is not really the best at anything in Battlegrounds. He can take tech defenders down at a decent pace, and that's about it, but there are so many better, more versatile options. At number 14 is Black Widow Deadly Origin. Of course she suffers from the same problem that Bill does, that being that shock is just the worst damage over time debuff to rely on for Battlegrounds. She's higher up than Bill because she has quicker access to her max damage output. But although her damage was insane back in the day and it's still decent, her damage is not all it was hyped up to be. There's plenty more champions that have higher damage than Black Widow with more utility more versatility. Black Widow just doesn't really shine at anything in Battlegrounds in today's game, and of course she's not really a good defender. You know, she gains that evade charge off her special one, but that's easy to play around. At number 13 is another champion that relies on shock, being Infamous Iron Man, but he's a bit better because he is the best counter to a very tricky defender in Bishop. Bishop can be a menace on defense in certain metas, like for example the current Gladiator Circuit node. Bishop is one of the best defenders, and who's one of the best counters, if not the best counter? Infamous Iron Man. He completely shuts off any defensive threat Bishop has, and he can be a decent defender, has that big regen, can't parry his medium attacks, and he has that aura, you know, so you can't use a special attack against him whilst that aura is active unless you have a way to counter that. Outside of Bishop, he's good for Mephisto, but that matchup isn't the fastest, and he isn't good for any other tricky defenders. But I think being the best counter to a very meta defender and being a decent defender himself is enough to make him a decent Battlegrounds champion. At number 12 is Leader. The main reason he's here is he can cause some trouble on defense. Once you figure out how to fight him though, he's not that bad. You just want to only do medium attacks against him and outrange his special one. On attack, he's got nice utility, pretty versatile, just really slow. At number 11 is Superior Iron Man. He can handle some tricky defenders, but not as much as other champions. On top of that, his damage is fantastic when he crits, but if you get bad crit RNG, it can be underwhelming. He's good, it's just there are better options out there with more versatility and more reliable damage. He is a good champion for Battlegrounds, but he has his problems. Every champion past this point, starting with Hitmonkey, is a phenomenal Battlegrounds champion. Hitmonkey's coming in at number 10. You might expect him to be higher, and while he is insanely fast, he's pretty versatile. He has his problems, main one being he's squishy, and health is such a big deciding factor in Battlegrounds. Health gives you so many more points than finishing the fight fast, and with Hitmonkey you can't really take many blocked hits, otherwise that will cost you the match. And even the top Battleground players, you know, they take blocked hits against certain defenders. You have to block hits to avoid them throwing a special attack or to avoid defensive mechanics. So of course that's going to hurt Hitmonkey in those matchups because he's going to take a lot more block damage than other champions. I see a lot of people comparing Hitmonkey to Starkey. A lot of people seem to think Hitmonkey is as good as Starkey for Battlegrounds, which is just wrong. What people don't realise is Hitmonkey does not have the same amount of utility as Starkey. Starkey has that stun lock, so his squishiness doesn't really matter, on top of being able to power drain his opponent, so he can kill most Battleground fights without baiting a single special attack. Hitmonkey can't do that, and on top of that, Starkey is just way more versatile. He's taking bullseyes, killmongers. You're not going to see Hitmonkey doing that. So yeah, Hitmonkey is great, don't get me wrong, but he is no Starkey. Starkey is literally the best Battlegrounds attacker in the game. So you need to stop comparing these two champions because one is not like the other. At number 9 is the Hood. Now he may not be as fast as Hitmonkey, but he more than makes up for that with his versatility and his safety. It's incredibly easy to finish fights at 100% health with Hood because he has that invisibility. You get easy openings with that, you don't need to parry or block, and he has that regeneration when his staggers expire to help keep his health topped up. He's a incredibly versatile attacker. Not many champions are immune to his hex. Well, no champions are immune to his hexes, but some champions work around it, like champions with energy resistance. You don't want to use Hood on those fights, but other than that, no champions are immune to the hexes. He's incredibly versatile, he's incredibly safe, and he has some really nice utility with the power steal and everything. Just a really great all-round champion. Not the fastest, but a great Battlegrounds attacker for sure. At number 8, I'm going to be placing Spiral. Now, Serpent is the best defender in the game. Spiral completely gets rid of any threat that Serpent has. That alone lets her deserve the number 8 spot, but she's a great attacker outside of just Serpent as well. She relies on ruptures, which not many champions at all are immune to, so she's pretty versatile and she can be a decent defender. Not the best defender by any means, but she can at the very least stall, because you have to keep parrying her and making sure you don't attack her with the second light attack while she's not stunned, otherwise she's going to hit you with those dancing blades. At number 7 may be a surprise to some people, because the general consensus when Arcade came out is that he was a disappointment on both attack and defense, and now it may still be true that he's mid on attack. He is definitely not mid on defense. He has proved that he is a menace. Yes, if you fight him with no nodes in a generic meta, sure, he may be easy to fight then, but give him some nodes and he becomes one of the trickiest defenders in the game. Make him root you on his special attacks, give him power gain, and he's tripping up many of the top Battleground players. He gets so many wins on Battlegrounds defense, so he well deserves the number 7 spot at least. At number 6 is a bit of a polarizing champion. I think a lot of people still aren't sold on Jack-O-Lantern, but I've made videos on Jack-O-Lantern. Go check them out if you haven't already. I think he's a fantastic champion. Against mutant champions, he's an absolute nuke. If you use this guy against the mutant champion, you're winning the round. Straight up, you are winning that round. Against non-mutant champions though, he's decent, not the best, but he can nuke Onslaught in under 30 seconds. How many other champions can do that? If you use this guy in a matchup you're supposed to use him in, and there are plenty of those matchups, you're pretty much guaranteed to win that round. So that definitely lets him deserve the number 6 spot. Of course, he's insane in the current Gladiator Circuit node with Power Shield. Anything dies with a single special 2. He's also going to be great next season in Battlegrounds as well, because the meta is going to be Safeguard with Mixmaster, and he's probably going to be the best Onslaught counter for this. Onslaught's going to be a very tricky defender, that meta. So Jack stocks are very high. You know, he's just come out and the metas are benefit him, so maybe he goes down in the future, but for now I think he well deserves the number 6 spot. Kicking off our top 5 is Count Nefaria. Now, I don't know if people are going to be mad that he's not higher up, but this is the reality. He's a great champion, but in most metas, he's not a good defender. And while he's incredibly safe on attack, it's so easy to get 100% finishes with Count Nefaria, and he's decently versatile. He's not the fastest, so that's going to hold him back over the other champions on this list. He is great though. At number 4, this is where the placements were getting really tricky, because I really have nothing bad to say about Scream. She's an incredible champion. Her damage is insane. She accesses her damage insanely fast because she gains so much power thanks to those Energize. She has nice utility, access to a ton of debuffs, armor break, bleed, and she has that undermine to help counter auto block even against Penny Parker. Even if the opponent is immune to bleed, she will just apply double the armor break, so bleed immune champions are not going to stop her. She sucks against armor break immune champions is the only thing. But yeah, insane damage, incredibly versatile, great utility, even has a bit of defensive utility. If you let her throw a heavy attack or let her throw a special 2, she's going to auto block you. She's just a great champion for Battlegrounds, and she's only number 4. Coming in at number 3 is Rintra. Now, for players lower down, for players who don't play in Celestial, Rintra may not be as valuable to them, but for the best players, you know, the players who rarely mess up any fights, Rintra is one of the best defenders simply because he has so much health. He's so tanky, so he stalls, and that is the best defensive utility you can have in top tier Battlegrounds, stalling, because it doesn't matter how skilled you are, that's not going to help you get Rintra down faster. Now let's take 2 Celestial players. They're most likely going to play perfect. One player places Arcade, one player places Rintra. Who do you think is going to win the round on defense? That's right, Rintra. Even though Arcade is the tougher defender, Celestial players are playing perfectly most of the time. So even though he's the tougher defender, Rincha is going to stall more, so he's going to win the match on defense 95% of the time. At number 2 may be a surprise to some people because she really isn't talked about enough, but I think that will change soon. It's Safra. Her damage is insane. She's insanely versatile because her damage source is just energy damage. Not many champions are going to stop that. Her utility is great. She's one of the best serpent counters. The only thing she doesn't have is that she's not great on defense, but she's one of the very best, fastest and most versatile Battlegrounds attackers you can get, and she handles many tricky defenders. At number 1, I don't think this champion needs much introduction. It's the whole Enchantress, one of the best defenders in the game, and it's crazy to think when she released people were calling her mid, but this is the same situation as Arcade but amped up to 10. Yeah, she's relatively easy to fight if you fight her without any nodes, but give her some nodes, make her root you on her special attacks, give her extra power gain, and she becomes a absolute deviant on defense. She is 100% a top 5 Battlegrounds defender, possibly a top 3 Battlegrounds defender, but she's really well designed opposed to Serpent. She's fair, but even if you have a ideal counter for her, you can still mess up, which I kind of like. She's a really well designed, tricky defender, and I think she's here to stay. But that's going to end off the rankings and therefore the video. I'll put the full list on screen right now. If you enjoyed it, if you found it helpful, you know what to do. Smash that like button. And I did have another top tier Battlegrounds player look over the list just to check if there's anything they would change. So shout out Cantona for his help he gave me making this video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.